Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Art of the Game over here at Cabbit Crossing. And we are back with some more tips and tricks from Game Masters. We are down one. We're -1 plus one because
We're down the brainchild.
Yes, we're down the brainchild, aka Woody. And but we're +1 on a Dreamslayer, I guess.
Nice.
So we have another guest GM with us, and Christopher Tyner. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to kind of be a part of this tonight. So really appreciate it. So I have kind of my own little streaming group that I run about 3 campaigns through Dreamslayer Studios, which can be found on Twitch and YouTube and just about every single podcast provider that you can think of. We have, I think, now over 200 episodes
Nice.
of Dreamslayer Studios out there at this point. So I've been doing it for a little bit over 3 years online, but prior to that, I have been a GM since about my 8th grade year, which would have been 1985.
Not to give years or agency.
I don't care. I don't care. Everybody can
I was
know
born.
how old I am. You were born? Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
For 2 years.
But yeah, I kind of got introduced to it through the world and love of comic books. And I kind of stumbled across the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game back in '85 when it came out. Mm-hmm. And I asked for it for Christmas that year. And I had no idea what it was that I was getting. I read the book from cover to cover, or the books, I should say, from cover to cover. And then by New Year's Eve, I forced my parents and grandparents to sit down and play with me. And they had no idea what I was doing, what this game was all about. But it lit a fire. And it wasn't long after that I met my first real lifelong friend. His name's Lewis Brinton. He's a preacher now down in Tennessee. And he's just as into this now as we were back then. And he's got his own gaming group down there. And he does podcasts like this. That's cool. Informational podcasts as well. But nice. He was the one that really got me into it because he and I both shared a love for comic books. And I was like, hey, did you know they made like a role-playing game for this? You want to play? And that's what kicked it off. And his grandma had a miniature golf course back then. And we would get our group together and play there at the miniature golf course every week. And there hasn't been a year since that I haven't rolled percentile dice. Marvel has just been my main focus for a long, long time. But I've branched out and GM'd a lot of other different genres and a lot of different other game mechanics. So yeah, I'm pretty well versed when it comes to that.
Cool. Yeah. And you have some books out, right? For
Everyday Heroes? Yeah. One of the things that I picked up on was the Kickstarter for Everyday Heroes about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what really caught my eye was some of the cinematic properties that they had, like Highlander and The Crow, 2 of my all-time favorite films. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be running something in this gaming system because I love those properties. But it was so versatile that the first thing that I ended up running was a game, Marks, that you played in, which was Get Charlotte, which I set in the Tarantino universe. And after doing that, I kind of started to create some of my own stuff. I've been creating stuff for my players for years. I'm an artist, so I draw, but I also like, putting adventures together for other people to play. And I'm a member of several communities where we just do like fan stuff and just put it out there for anybody to use. I never really got paid for it. Mm-hmm. But Evil Genius, who holds the Everyday Heroes license, has it available for you to be able to produce your own stuff through their license. And so I started doing that, and now I have 4 books, I think, out with them. And the first one that I produced really caught the attention of the CEO of the company. And then he invited me to actually do all of the interior art for the upcoming Return of the Living Dead cinematic adventure doing. So I have done 30 pieces of art for that book so far, and I just got another art order for 20 yesterday.
Nice.
And so my fingers are aching from doing all of the tablet stuff that I do, because I draw everything on tablet. But this is honestly some of the best work I think I've ever put out. And I'm really, really honored and happy to be a part of this. I love the movie series, and horror is certainly one of my big focuses when it comes to role playing. So it was an easy thing to just slide on into.
Awesome. Yeah, we did. I was one of the players on your Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, yeah, you were one of the players on that. You were also one of my playtesters for my Requiem book, which is the horror book that I've got on Drive-Thru RPG and Evil Genius's Sidekick. So that one has taken off. It's done really well. I think I've sold over 100 copies of that. And, so yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where things are, and it's opened a lot of doors for me. So I'm real fortunate that people took notice.
Nice, awesome.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, let's get to our topic for today then. You picked this topic. This is your brain baby today.
Yeah.
At least the topic. So we're going to talk about world building. So why don't you launch us off on that? What do you want to talk about with world building?
Well, and I think the way that I kind of structured this may be a 2-parter. So, I kind of combined both the long form campaign and the world building all kind of into one big pot.
Okay.
So I think for me, when you're sitting down trying to either create a world or create a long form campaign, I think the first and foremost thing that you want to do is you just need to figure out what kind of story you want to tell and what kind of world you want to put it in. Mm-hmm. And world is something with air quotes, I think, around it, because sometimes it is a neighborhood, sometimes it's a city, sometimes it's a region, sometimes it's a country, sometimes it's a world, sometimes it's a universe, or in our case with Marvel Galaxies, it's kind of the multiverse. I think that in coming up with something like that, you as the GM have to be invested in it. Mm-hmm. So that's first and foremost. You got to be able to tell the story that you kind of want to tell. But I think also it's really important to talk to your players as well and find out what it is that they want to play. I may be a huge Highlander and the Crow fan and like Assassin's Creed, but the players that I've got may not want to do a mishmash of those 3 genres. And if they don't want to play it, then they're not going to be invested in it. So I think a little balance of both is good, but you can certainly lean more heavily one way or the other when you're trying to build that idea, at least that initial idea for the world.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, to talk with your group first, session 0 or whatever, or maybe before session 0,
Mm-hmm.
and find out what they like, their genres and tone or whatever.
I'm curious, like you mentioned, pick the type of story you want to say, and then the setting you want to put it in. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking when you think of type of story you want to say? Because a lot of people would say that is the setting, but I agree with you that it's not. They're separate, right?
Well, so one of the games that I ran on the streaming service is called Avalon by Gaslight. I ran it in Savage Worlds. Now, me personally, I'm a huge fan of steampunk. And I loved the comic book Gotham by Gaslight, and I'm a fan of Sherlock Holmes. I went to England and I actually visited, the site where
Baker Street.
on Baker Street, where it was kind of based on, and so forth. So that was kind of a jumping on point for me to kind of create something. And I had just bought the Savage Worlds book, and it was a pretty open-ended system that I could kind of create what I wanted to in it. So what I was kind of thinking of was something that kind of combined those elements, a reality that's set in Victorian England with advanced technology, but dealing with the aftermath of a worldwide eruption of supernatural events. And so I kind of came up with this concept of the Knights of Victoria, who are paranormal investigators that are tasked with investigating, this creepy shit that's going on, all over England. So that's one thing. And then like talking to players and trying to figure out what they want to play. I had a group that I was like, okay, I'm going to try and experiment. I'm going to base this completely off of what you give me. I'm not going to put anything into this at all. You tell me, give me some ideas of some movies and some television shows that you feel like you would want to play in a world like that. And I got stuff from The Walking Dead to Blade Runner to Firefly and Harry Potter. So I took all of that stuff and I just shook it up, and then I came up with something based off of all of that. And I didn't even have a system in mind to run it with. So I kind of just took the ideas that they gave me, and then I figured out a system that I figured would work with it. And believe it or not, I hate Harry Potter. I'm probably going to get killed for that.
No, I'm sorry.
But
I'm not a big fan. I enjoy the movies. So.
Yeah.
But if you're watching and you love Harry Potter, I like Harry Potter. I don't actually like Harry Potter, but just so I don't get like
No, leave hate comments. It helps the algorithm.
But truthfully, it was the Harry Potter stuff that actually kind of got my ideas flowing, and that led me to Mage. And so in this particular kind of reality, taking a little bit of Blade Runner, taking a little bit of Walking Dead, I came up with an idea of this spacefaring adventure where science is magic, and the universe is plagued by this alternate reality called the Void, which is overrun by a virus that transformed their universe into these zombie-like creatures, and then it's bleeding over into this universe. And that was kind of the core of that particular game. I think we called it something like Dark Horizons or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think really it's all about just trying to figure out what story you and the group really want to tell. I don't know if did that answer the question?
Yeah. I think, and I agree. There's like two separate things there. And especially for new DMs, GMs, whatever, that want to start world building, you do usually want to start small and branch out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the coming up with a story you want to tell before you come up with a setting is often extremely helpful for expanding out your world. So if you want to give a mystery as your story you're going to tell, right? Well, that's going to definitely help your setting, because now you're probably going to be in a city, crowded place. Mysteries work really well for steampunk or Victorian eras, like where there's actual interesting things going on with people talking to other people and stuff. So it's automatically like starting to build out, just by coming up with a story you want to tell, it automatically starts to build out what you want to do. So it's like, are you doing a high epic adventure where you can kill the big boss at the end? Are you doing a mystery? Are you doing that grim dark where you're just trying to survive or something? Are you doing you're escaping from some situation where you're having trouble surviving or something? I don't know. Like there's like a lot of different stories. And once you get that, the setting to put it in almost becomes obvious in a lot of cases. Right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think you mentioned like for new GMs that are really wanting to explore world building, I think probably one of the more important questions that they can ask themselves or the players or whatever is just two phrases, and I'm pulling from my comic book knowledge on this. It are two words, and it's what if. You know, Marks, you're playing in the current Marvel Galaxies game that I'm running, and that was literally based off of kind of a what if kind of scenario. But I took it and I twisted it, and I said, what if Dr. Doom created the universe? You know, the comic book series had, you know, he created Battle World, but what if he just recreated everything? And he was in control of it. And then we talked about, you know, Get Charlotte and Everyday Heroes. That I'm being a fan of Quentin Tarantino. What if all of Quentin Tarantino's existed in the same story? You know, you can take an existing property like Tales from the Loop, which has a really, really rich kind of backstory and world to actually play in, but it's set somewhere like in Sweden or Denmark or something like that, if I remember correctly. But I kind of took that idea and I said, okay, well, what if there was a particle accelerator that was built in my hometown in the 1980s, and a group of middle school kids like the Scooby Gang find themselves embroiled in this conspiracy and the strange goings on around this new technology. So it's really just about asking those questions and then figuring out what that answer is.
Yeah. Also point out everything you mentioned, you're pulling from like existing genres and existing media out there, and people should not be afraid to do that.
No, definitely.
Like, you should totally pull what you like. In fact, in some abstract way, the thought of coming up everything yourself, purely creative or whatever that means, is impossible. Everyone pulls from their influences, whether they know they are or not. Right? As an artist, you know that, right? Because you've probably had artistic influences and they show in your work, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, the new piece that I just did, Vigilante Justice, was completely inspired by Frank Miller and Sin City.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, so I would say to new GMs, the closer you can get to like something that you know and you love, and you can put that what if on it, the easier it's going to be for you to get started, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's going to inform it. Like, whenever you have to remember, as a GM, when something comes up you didn't prepare for, you have to make it up. And the more structure you have around that thing you're making up, it's easier to pull pieces from, right? So that's why a lot of people start with pre-existing campaigns, is because of that. But you and I and Marks all know that world building is the most fun way to do it. But
yeah. How much do you build out your world then? Because I think sometimes people get carried away a little bit, right? You want to be careful.
Well, I mean, I think it really just depends on how big that world actually is. And this is something that we'll probably get into next episode when we're really talking more about, you know, creating a long form campaign. So I won't really touch on that too much, but I think you do have to kind of think about the big picture, but you don't have to necessarily flesh every little bit out. Normally, I've got a notebook where I just kind of jot down some ideas of, okay, so, and I'm going to use Marvel Galaxies as like an idea, because this is a huge world that I've built, you know, for you guys, and you guys threw me a curveball by skipping, you know, a portion of the campaign. I had at least 4 sessions probably planned out for these guys in Asgard, and they ended up stealing a ship and going off in a completely different direction. I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm also trying to time this out with another game that I'm playing so that these characters will meet up, but I've already got them knee deep in some stuff, and I can't just introduce these characters in. So I had to come up with something kind of on the fly. But that's where that notebook really came into play, is I had written down all of these different ideas for all of these different planets that are in the individual galaxies and so forth. And just a note on kind of what happens on those planets. So one of the planets that you guys would be passing to get where you're going is called New Orleans. And it's literally based on the city of New Orleans, but it's just a whole planet that's just this bayou filled planet, and plenty of voodoo and zydeco music and all this other stuff going on. But that's all I wrote down was voodoo, zydeco. Boom, that was it. That's all I had. But then I was like, okay, well, they're in this portion of the galaxy. I could drop them in here and kill a little bit of time until we catch up with the other group. And so this is going to end up being another, 4 or 5 episode, arc of the campaign. And just in sitting down and fleshing that part out, I was like, ooh, I really like this place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really, all it is just jotting down ideas and then just being prepared to focus on those ideas when the players decide to make a move that you're not really prepared for.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think we talked about this on a previous episode. The more you do that, the more you're prepared for any future campaign too, right? Because now you have I don't know how many years for you, maybe 30 years of just notes that you could pull from on a moment's notice if you needed to, right?
Yeah.
And so it definitely gets easier as time goes on. But I do the same. It's I'll usually do it I do it less on notebooks these days and try to put it digitally so I can search. But I'll just put random things. I'll even go to a planet generator if it's sci-fi, right? And to be give me some ideas, and just click through them until you find one and then modify it. Because it's just gets the juices going, basically.
Well, and like you said, putting it in some sort of database is great. I'm definitely a little old school still. So, I mean, I've got notepads laying all over the place, and I've got a stack of them, like you said, 30 years worth in my closet that I can go to at any time. And again, we'll probably get more into this in the next episode. I use Foundry now since I do a lot of streaming. And this allows me to type everything out, put it into a central location for one particular game. But then if I decide, okay, well, I need that for this new campaign that I'm running, all I got to do is just import it, and it's all right there at my fingertips.
What do they call it? Compendium, something like that.
Compendiums, yes. So you can just swap those in and out as you need them. So I think that's great. That's been a real game changer for sure for me.
Nice. Yeah. I use either a Word document with bookmarks, like a table of contents, so I can jump around, or I use Obsidian sometimes. I used Obsidian for the Call of Cthulhu game and 1 or 2 other games.
I'm really lame. I use a folder on my home directory called Planning, and then I have subfolders of just all the different campaigns I can search for. And they're actually markdown files or text files. So I'm very weird. I used to just use Google Docs, and then I felt dirty, so I did that instead.
All right. Anything else about world building you want to cover before we go to part 2?
I don't know. You guys have any more questions for me? Or I'm kind of curious to know, what you guys do when it comes to kind of coming up with a world. I mean, I'm always kind of listening to other GMs and what they do. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm probably a little controversial because I actually use a lot of different AIs for brainstorming. I never use the result because we all know that if you use AI to write anything, it comes back as utter crap, right? But what I find it good for is you could just throw some stuff at it. It throws some stuff at you. You throw some stuff at it, and before long, you at least have a bunch of stuff bouncing around in your brain to the point where you could solidify around one thing. And usually, what I look for is the major factions that matter in that world, whatever the scale is, right? Usually, more than a couple, quite a few places that if you can, that they could run into. NPCs, make a whole bunch of random ones, and then also make some important ones, and really just a bit of motivations of what each faction that's around, or what each group, it doesn't have to be faction, but each group, what's even moving part, what their goals are, and stuff like that. And then after that, I feel safer for trying to nail down an actual story, right? And that's usually about all I do. It's just that. not much more than that. Some locations, some people, some groups.
Yeah, so I think with what you're saying, it's actually almost the reverse of what I do.
No.
I always start with the world first and then figure out what I'm dropping into it. So, yeah, I mean, but I think both of those are completely viable options.
Yeah. You fill it in this way, I fill it in this way.
Yeah,
but you have to get to the same.
Yeah, I'm working on a game, but that's kind of the world down because it's based on a book series I've been writing. But
I think a lot of people do that. I know Matt Mercer does that too. He starts with like the overall encompassing world, how it was created, and stuff like that, and then he narrows down to.
Yeah, well, because magic and certain things work differently than any one particular game system does, so I have to figure out how I'm going to modify that.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
For other games, well, I like the format. I think I picked up from Monster of the Week, and then I modified it over time. But like Monster of the Week, what I picked up from that is what I would do. That's always that's a formula, right? It's like a monster is a mystery, and you got to go get monsters. So I have to think about if there's any. I basically have a list of potential allies or frenemies or people in my getaway or witnesses or whatever, and then I have the threats, their stats that they may encounter. I pick out a few key locations I know that they're going to be tempted to go to, because you never know where they're going to go. But that might go to. I have a description written out for them, so I can read that if I need to. And if I need a map or something, I'll work on that. And a basic idea what could happen there, and which ends up being like maybe 50% of that ends up getting used. And
I think we come at this in 3 different ways. That's so funny because I'm very much like that middle layer, and then like come up with the world after that, go to the specific mission after that. Marx is like, no, I start with the world, and then I go to the exact mission and the relationships in that mission, and then I go out. Right?
Yeah.
And Tyner's like, no, you go like this. You just build it in.
Well, with Monster Week, it's so broad. Like they don't have established, they don't have established organizations or anything. So with that, I try to keep freedom to be like, when you create an agent, what organization are you in and stuff. And so whenever they start giving me stuff to play with, I start building out the world from there. So I guess it's like,
I do like Daggerheart's suggestion, which they obviously got from somewhere else, but where you start with a map that's halfway filled in, and then players take turns making something up about the map. And that actually builds a lot of stuff. The only problem is it can be a little random sometimes, especially if you have chaos agents in your party, in your group. But I thought it was pretty cool to build around that. But that does work better for comedy.
Yeah, there's kind of a board game that's been out for a while that's kind of like that. I for the life of me, I'm not going to remember how it's played, but my original gaming group, we got back together. They're all from all over the place, and we kind of came together and then played this game. A guy that lives in Mexico brought it up with him. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called, but very, very similar. You just kind of work together to kind of create the world. Each one of you is in control of that particular group, and then you either flourish or you falter.
Is it a post-apocalyptic
go ahead.
world? Is it a post-apocalyptic world?
No, it can be a world of anything that you decide that you want to create. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm tempted to bring up something I really want to talk about, but I'll bring it up on the next episode because we're getting up to the 30-minute mark.
Well, because
stay tuned.
There are 2 games I know of that I've read over but never played. One newer one called Arium, where it's just about the players get together and build a world, basically. And then another one that's been around longer that a lot of people know about. Is it Microscope? It's something like Microscope. I feel like I'm messing that up, but that's all about creating worlds and history and stuff too. So
that's somewhat related to what I was going to bring up. But
yeah, they're both interesting. Arium's one I want to try sometime. So because they also have other game, they have like spin-off game where you can then create characters and then you can role play and stuff too. So it's kind of cool. But you always build a world no matter what game you play, right?
Even when you do pre-established campaigns, you end up world building to some degree. It's impossible. If you have players with backstories, you're world building to some degree.
Yeah, every NPC you introduce, that's a new part of the world you're creating. So
yeah.
All right. So sounds like we got some good info here about world building started, and then we'll go into part 2 next, where we go about long form campaigns. So thanks everybody for watching, and until next time,
keep building.
Keep building.
Keep building.
When the dice roll high, we touch